Let's go back to Matangini. She has fetched water and has come back to the house. On the way, when she is coming back, Mathur and Madhav both see her, and they are both struck by the beauty of Matangini. She has come back, and Rajmohan confronts her, and this is the scene that which demonstrates her strength and agency as a woman, which is very radical in terms of its radical when we think about the timing that it's in 19th century, and it embodies the 19th century discourse around women in India itself, because much of the nationalist discourse is about women, the role of women. So women are both subject and object of discussion in 19th century, and this is Bankim's portrayal of women of 19th century. Rajmohan asks, "Well, Queen, where have you been?" The woman firmly whispered back, and then I want you to note the words that I used here. Like, firmly whispered back. I had gone to fetch water. She was standing like a statue, exactly on the spot where her husband had asked her to stop. To fetch water, but with whose permission did you go out? With nobody's permission. Rajmohan could restrain himself no longer. With nobody's permission, he shouted, "Have I not forbidden you 1,000 times?" The woman replied in the same even tone. First, we have firm, then, second, we have even tone. "You have." Then, "Wretched girl," Rajmohan asks, "why did you go?" The woman proudly replied, "I am your wife." Her face had reddened. Her voice began to be choked. "I had gone because I thought there was nothing wrong in it." You remember she asked, "Is there anything wrong to Kanaka if she steps out?" Now she replies to Rajmohan. And you see the resilience in her voice, you see the agency in her voice, that I'm your wife, I don't need permission in this case because I didn't think it was wrong to go out to fetch water. It's as simple as a banal, everyday, ordinary activity. But what is important, and this will be repeated again and again in this novel, that even when Matangini is threatened with violence, and here it happens, Rajmohan absolutely blazed up. "Have I not forbidden you 1,000 times?" he shouted, and jumping on his wife, who was standing stock still, gripped her by wrist, raising his other hand to strike her. The helpless woman seemed to understand nothing. She did not move away one step from her assailant, but only looked at him with such pathetic eyes that his hand remained motionless, as if spellbound. After a moment's silence, Rajmohan dropped his wife's hand, but immediately shouted, "I will kick you to death." What is important is to see that strength that is there, that there is a certain calm strength that is there. There is a silent but very determined demeanor that is there in Matangini. And that is very important because she is again and again threatened violence in the novel, and each time not only does she stands silently, she replies also. And that's what I want you to note here, that you will see that each time she has replied. Once that "Why did you go out?" "I went out to fetch water." "And have I not forbidden it?" "You have, but I am your wife and I have not done anything wrong." This kind of strength is what marks Matangini different from everyone else. Like Madhav, and more than Madhav, you see Matangini as a child of modernity, asserting her rights and her values, that if she thought this was not wrong, she is going to do it. And therefore, she gives vein to her emotions and expresses her own desires. And we have seen already a glimpse of it in the first chapter. That expression of desire and finds a much more emphatic expression in chapter 7, which we'll move to now. Chapter 7 is titled Love Can Conquer Fear. So, we are already told that there is some element of affection, emotion that spills over now. And in the previous chapter, what has happened is like Matangini has overheard Rajmohan's ploy to rob Madhav and attack Madhav's house at midnight. He has gotten involved with some dacoits, and those dacoits are waiting in the dark, and they will raid Madhav's house at midnight. Having gotten that information, Matangini now faces a curious dilemma, that how is she going to warn her sister and her sister's husband of the impending disaster, of this violent crime that is going to be committed in their house. And she is in a dilemma here, and she does something that is unprecedented. Before we go there, we look at something very peculiar here, and this is this note here that is given here. These kinds of notes come up in between, and you'll see that it's not a regular feature for regular or a consistent feature throughout the novel. In some chapters, we get these kinds of head notes in which the author brings in certain dramatic or traditions from the Indian tales of Katha, Dastan itself, where the narrator kind of prefaces a chapter about what has happened or what is going to happen, kind of trying to warn the reader or trying to foreground certain aspects of the chapter that they should be that they should also focus when they are reading. One of those comes here, that he says, in which the author narrowly misses an opportunity of introducing a few ghosts and regrets that he cannot gratify his young readers. So, what we immediately know is that another tradition of writing comes into this novelistic sphere, that of the Gothic itself. That there are some Gothic elements are there, that he narrowly misses an opportunity, and we'll see where he narrowly misses those opportunities. So, we have Gothic elements, and if you have read the previous chapters, you will see that there is an element of a thriller that is building up now, that like we need to find that Matangini finds out something, and then now she will do something. As a result of that, something else will unfold. So, we have a lot of things that are coming into the sphere of the novel itself. And if you remember the earlier lectures, that's why I kept on harping on the fact that the Indian English novel embodies multiple discourses in it, and that is exemplified here, where you see many different kind of discourses coming in. If one discourse is that of the Gothic, the other one that comes in here is something called Abhisara. Abhisara is drawn from the Indian aesthetic traditions, where the lady goes out to meet her lover in the dark. In the dark, a journey is made, and that's what Matangini is about to make here. And we have all the tropes of those darknesses. Then there will be the foreboding of some spectral presences and some kind of dark, the play between dark and light. All those kinds of things are also embodied here in this chapter. Every word that caught the ear of Matangini froze her with horror during the terrible dialogue she overheard. And I was telling you about how she overheard a discussion between Rajmohan and the dacoit who are going to raid Madhav's house and rob him of the property documents. As long as it continued, the intense interest with which she listened sustained her trembling fear, but as soon as it ended, she sank overpowered on the floor. She starts thinking, what can she do now? She first thing that comes to her mind is her husband, that like she had known him to be a person of bad temper, but now she finds out that he's actually an accomplice of robbers, himself a robber perhaps, who had hitherto enjoyed her innocent company, bosom. So, what is she going to do now? Is she going to expose her own husband? Such thought came to her. Then she started thinking about Hemangini and Madhav. Her hair stood on end, her blood tingled in her veins, and a sharp pang shot across her head. All thoughts of her own accursed future and degraded womanhood vanished as she thought of the beloved beings who were now sleeping in fancied security, while utter poverty, misery, and perhaps wars yawned to engulf them in an hour. That, like her beloved sister and her husband, they were asleep without knowing what is going to come up on them. She felt she should save them, but how would she do it? And here I want to draw your attention to again something that is very important to Matangini's character. When we are talking about that, like in the face of violence, she remains calm, and there is a kind of a strength. There is a kind of a silent strength that she exhibits. Here, when she gets this kind of a information that her husband is actually probably a robber and is involved in crime, she is not driven by emotion, and she is obviously driven by emotion, but then she is not overpowered by emotions. You can see her taking very rational decisions. Her first thought was to alarm her own household, but the next moment she thought the folly of the thought. Who in the household would believe that it is Rajmohan, right? So then she thought, like, how can she save Madhav and Hemangini? Uh, that nobody will like probably go and tell them also from this household. She next thought of Kanaka. Might not Kanaka be sent to inform Madhav's household? Kanaka's house was close by, and Matangini might steal away from her chamber and awaken her to impart and everything. She could not awaken though. She could not awaken Kanaka without awakening her mother, Kanaka's mother. So then that might create problem. Kanaka might want to go in the midnight to Hemangini's house, but her mother might not want her to go. By the time probably the information reaches, God knows what would have happened. So whatever has to be done has to be done fast, but she is clearly thinking very rationally. So in that way, Bankim is overturning many stereotypes here associated with women who are passionate. Men are from Mars and women are from Venus, and those kinds of stereotypes where women are passionate creatures without rationality in that sense. But you can see Matangini very rationally weighing her options, that what else can she do. Matangini now perceived after many thoughts and everything that her only resource lay in herself. She must go herself. Her whole soul recoiled at the idea. So you can see Matangini being the vulnerable self that she is. That it's not as if like suddenly she becomes a hero and there is a savior that comes in her. Her whole soul recoiled at this idea that, like, oh, how will I go in this dark through the jungle to Hemangini's house? She thought not of the danger, though the danger was great. At this hour of dread loneliness, a young woman would have to thread her way a wild jungly path. She was naturally enough superstitious, and her rich imagination stored with tales of unearthly haunters. We have Gothic here, and then also Indian traditions of bhoot and other stories that are there, right, of the woods, and had fed on them since infancy. A band of desperate robbers were stationed somewhere in the vicinity. Should she fall into their hands, she shuddered to think what might be the consequence. If among those robbers she should meet her husband, Matangini shuddered again. So one can see that again, when she's thinking that she should go, she's outlining clearly what are the dangers that are there, and knowing those dangers, she became ready to brave the risk, and she goes ahead undecided, and wrapping herself in a coarse piece of bedcloth from head to foot, she gently opened the door, and then she walks out. And the entire description here is colored by Gothic narratives. You can see then summoning all her resolutions, she made rapid but noiseless steps. Her heart beat as she walked through the jungly path. The dreary silence, the dark shadows appalled her. The knotted trunks of huge trees showed like so many unearthly forms watching her progress in malignant silence. In each leafy bough that she shot over her darkened path, she fancied there lurked a demon. In each dark recess, she could see the skulking form and glistening eyes of a spectre or of a robber. All the wild tales she had heard of fierce visages and ghostly grins that had appalled to death the belated travelers rushed to her imagination. The light crack of falling leaf, the flapped wings of some frightened night birds as it changed its unseen seat among the dark branches, the slight rustle of crawling reptiles among the fallen leaves, even her own footsteps made her heart fainter and fainter. Still, the resolute girl hurried on, taking the name of her patron goddess 1,000 times within her heart, and now and then muttering a prayer. She goes and then she crosses the mango tope enclosed by high impervious hedge, and the descriptions are filled with tales of bhoot drawn from the Indian localities and also from Gothic tales. Matangini, however, braves this and reaches Madhav's house and informs them about the impending disaster, and Madhav takes the necessary precautions, and ultimately the dacoits are all shooed away. However, she has reached the house of Madhav and Matangini, and we are shown a very different side of Madhav and Matangini, which we have been given suggestions of. So, I will focus on that brief meeting of Madhav and Matangini. They have two meetings here in their house. One once as she warns Madhav, and then later after the dacoits have been shooed away, have been resisted, then again they meet. So, in chapter 8, we are told that she meets him and then tells that, like, please inform Madhav that this is happening. Her husband in the stay then, and but the modest girl, this is him, positively refused to appear before her husband in the presence of her sister, though she did not say as much in words. Stay then and speak not a word about me or errand till I come back. And said Matangini, and darted away through the veranda, and she goes, and but then as Matangini neared the door of Madhav's apartment, her feet trembled more violently than even then when she stood eyeing the glaring light of the mango grove. She drew her sari over her forehead and proceeded softly with seeming reluctance. She receded, advanced, stopped short, pushed aside the door, and stopped again. At length entered. Matangini stationed herself close to the wall and downcast head as befitted the modesty of her gender as well as of the relationship. Madhav gave a start and then only half rose from his reclining posture. Neither, however, spoke, although one was anxious to impart the fearful tidings she bore as other received them, and a silence ensued which evidently embarrassed both. At length, Madhav spoke jestingly as the connection between them authorized. I wish you were a English Mem Sahib. We'll come back to this again when we discuss the colonial modernity part. Sister-in-law said he with a smile that I might offer you a seat. A seat can be only offered to an English Mem Sahib. You can see the gendered equation here because the English Mem Sahib is higher in terms of rank, in terms of the color. So that's why they rank higher. So that's why the English Mem Sahib can sit in the presence of a landed gentry like Madhav, not the sister-in-law, right? But he nevertheless offers, but why not sit down? So you can see the domestic etiquettes and the gap that is there also. And Bankim is very shrewd to point these little moments out also, the kind of discrepancy that is there. Matangini relieved to hear from his embarrassment by saying almost a whisper, have you heard what I have to say? Yes, it is true. It is true. Tonight you say. Tonight, even then they will make an attack as soon as this. Is it then I am lost? How do you know all of this? That you must not ask me. You perplex me, he says. Then she says something that reveals a lot to us. She says, do you not know me, Madhav? Can I deceive you? And do you think I would come to your house at this hour unattended? So, we are again, this is part of this is one element of the crucible. Do you not know me, Madhav? And it's not just simply knowing her as a sister-in-law, as we would assume here. I don't think that's what it means. So the reader is immediately given a suggestion that probably they know a bit more, right? And immediately you can see Madhav says, "Sure, I was wrong," and then Matangini arrested him with a look as he was rising and asked him to go give her one word more. So you can see there are many other suggestions that are probably a bit more suggestive than just saying that they knew each other more. Probably there is a hint that there is something else that is also to be thought about here in terms of knowing who these characters are, what do they know about each other, and that becomes clearer once we reach chapter 9 where Madhav and Matangini encounter each other again after the dacoits are successfully resisted, and that chapter is titled as we will as aptly as you will see, we meet to part.